To continue studying those academic vocabulary words, you have two choices. You can use your interactive notebook or the list I printed for you, or you can use Quizlet if you have a device that has reliable internet. So to continue to study those. Remember, guys, if you have a question for me while I'm teaching, I'm doing my very best to keep an eye on the comments, but I'm also teaching from my iPad. So if I miss a question, please feel free to stay on at the end of our presentation and I will answer any questions that you may have. So today, before we even begin learning, I want to talk to you guys about some questions that I've received that I think we might need to see again. So there are some things in Google Classroom that you can find, and this is where I will post anything that has to do with virtual learning. So today I'm going to go through and use my screen to try to show you those things and remind you of where they're located, especially for any students that might be joining us for the first time today. So we're going to be patient as my screen updates, but in a moment Okay, so now that we've looked at those important reminders from Google Classroom where you can find those things, we are going to go over yesterday's independent practice assignment. Now guys, I will not be able to go into detail on every single question, but what I do want to do is I want to give you the best answers, and I want you to know the best answers for those that solved this yesterday. And I'm going to try to do this quickly because we do have a different lesson today. Marley, it seems like you might need to log off and come back in, and if it doesn't improve, please let me know. Okay, so on my screen you can see a review from yesterday. This is what you did by yourself. So you read The Early Life of George Washington, and after you read it, you solved some task cards in Mastery Connect. Now, you already know your score, so you know what you made, but I want you to know the best answers to every question. So here we have number 1. You can see I've already done the brain work to show you the best answer is received. Part B, the best answer was D. Now, guys, as I'm going through these, it's going to take a little bit of time to give you all the answers. If I go too quickly on one and you want to talk to me about it further, please stay on at the end of our lesson and we will come back to these and I will read them to you and talk to you about them. But I'm only going to give you the answers now, and then if you have a question, we will discuss them more one-on-one at the end so that I do not take too much time reviewing yesterday. So number 3, part A, I've placed a star by number 3 and 4 because these are two that were commonly missed questions. So you can see that number 3 says, according to The Early Life of George Washington, which sentence best describes what George accomplished as a young man? Well, the best answer, based on the text, is, and you can see I bubbled that in, C. George became a skilled military leader and wealthy man. Okay, and then part B, I had to choose 2 phrases that best support my answer. You can see I've bubbled them in, D and E. He was a natural leader that showed courage, proving that he was skilled as a leader. And then at 27, he owned much land, proving that he owned land in part A. You guys also solved the next 2 task cards. So as my screen updates, you can see I have updated the best answers. Number 5 was A, number 6 was D, number 7 A, number 8 A. And these, most of us did well based on your data that I've already looked at in Mastery Connect. You then continued reading about the American Revolution. So you read this text on your own yesterday, and then you continued solving some questions. Number 9, part A was A, and my screen is updating to show you. Number 10, part B is D. And Emma, these were posted in Google Classroom. It gave you the codes to go into Mastery Connect and solve these. So I'm posting directions in Google Classroom every day. Okay? Kai, you may need to come back in if all you can see is my Bitmoji. Okay, number 11. The main idea of the passage, and then it gives a bubble map. Select 3 details that best support the main idea. I bubbled in B, C, and D. This was a commonly missed question. So I'm looking for 3 different supporting quotes to back up the unfair laws of the British caused the Patriots to go to war for freedom. All right. So B says the colonists had no choice but to buy the taxed British tea. This is proving British, number 1, and it's also giving why they had to felt they needed to go into war. The next one says forced ordinary families to allow the British soldiers to live in their houses. Well, that's how it's explaining more about their unfair laws and how they felt they needed freedom. And then the last one says George Washington would be the commander-in-chief of the whole Patriot Army. Well, that's proving more about the Patriots and how they went to war. This was a commonly missed question, which is why I'm taking more time to read it to you. Right before we were disconnected, I stopped at question 12. Part A, and the number 13, part B, is D. You can see that on my screen. And then number 14, part A, is C. 15, part B, was A and E. And these were not commonly missed, so I'm going through them quicker. You then solved another passage called George Washington Part 1 and Part 2. After you read this, you continued solving the task cards. You can see my screen is a little delayed, so I'm pausing. Will, go ahead and write what you think in the comment bar as we wait for the screen to update. Cam, log out and come back in, please, so that you can hear better. All right. Jordan, that's a question you would need to stay and ask at the end of class. Thank you, Will. All right, so number 16, part A, you solved this one. The best answer is D. And number 17, part B. And then number 18 was C, 19 was D. You can see those on the screen. And then the last 2 questions that you solved, my screen is updating. Number 20, part A, is B. And number 21, part B, was B. Now this one was commonly missed, so we're going to take a minute to talk about it. Part A, that asked about the main idea. The best answer was B. George Washington was our skilled and humbled first president. And then part B, I'm looking for evidence to back that up. Well, George Washington accomplished many things as president, proving he was skilled as the strongest evidence. I think many of us chose the distractor. All right. Thank you for reviewing our independent practice yesterday. Please remember that you will have an independent assignment each weekday for me. And the expectation is for you to solve it independently after we finish our live meet. And then the next day, we'll come back together to discuss what you did by yourself. Now, guys, I am able to see your scores. My computer alerts me, so I know who's completing it and who is not. And I want to encourage everyone that can to complete the independent work because it's the expectation from our school. Remember, if you're struggling with your internet, to log off and come back in. All right. And yes, Jordan, you should have already completed that one because it was yesterday's assignment. We were just checking the best answers. Okay, so let's move into our focus for today. And I'm noticing I have an I can statement. So it says, I can explain events, procedures, ideas, or concepts in an informational text, including what happened and why based on details in the text. So notice how we're adding to our knowledge of text evidence, but we're also looking for events, procedures, ideas, and concepts. Thank you, Sarah Barton, for your feedback. On my screen, you are going to see some notes that you already have in your interactive notebook. These are some of the notes we've gathered this year that can help you with this standard. These are not new pieces of information. I'm just reminding you that this information can be found in your interactive notebook. I also want you to know that as we're learning together today, we are going to focus specifically on one of the harder types of text, and it is a scientific text. So we have learned that there are 3 different types of informational text. One of the hardest one is scientific text. Often the words are more challenging. Often we have to look closer at the cause and effect relationship and what the author is communicating, which makes them harder to understand. So today, as we're learning, I want you guys to set a focus, just like we do every day. I want you to think about, this is my opportunity to grow, and this is a wonderful opportunity that many students around the world may not experience, so we want to use it to the best of our ability. Our learning target is at the top of my screen, and it says, think carefully about information in science text that will help you understand what happens in the natural world or why it happens. Read, and now I want everyone to use their chat to fill in my blank. So you will type where I say the word blank. That means your eyes actually have to be on your screen, just like in class. A good scientific text is like having a science expert at your side explaining the causes and effects of everything that goes on around you. It tells what blank during a set of events in nature. Very good. I see several people responding to my blank. It also answers important questions by explaining how the events happen and why it happens. These answers help you understand the world you live in. And then I have a cartoon on my screen, and it has 3 parts. Underneath the first picture, it says a fish dies and sinks to the ocean bottom. It is buried in mud, which may blank. Just a moment. Picture 2, slowly the fish bones dissolve and are replaced by other minerals. They become a fossil. And then in the third one, the ocean drains away and erosion uncovers the blank. Good. I'm also noticing underneath this image, it says a really big number there. Look at how many years ago, all the way to today. So it's giving you how time is passing. I'm thinking that's definitely a scientific text, helping me understand more about science. All right. So now that we've warmed up our brains, let's go ahead and add to that knowledge. Remember, we're thinking about, now let's go ahead and think about what happened and why. So in that comic, there were several pieces that we need to know. So we have to think about the events that created a fossil and the how and why a fossil is created. So let's look in the box that says how and why a fossil is created. Over millions of years, the fish skeleton dissolves and is replaced by other minerals. They harden in the shape of the skeleton. This creates a fossil. Later, erosion wears away the rock and soil to uncover the fossil. So I'm thinking about what event created that fossil. So what happened that caused this to happen? So go ahead and check out. I'm updating my screen for you to see my brain work. I'm going to give that a moment to load. Events that created a fossil. Well, a dead fish is covered with mud at the bottom of the ocean. The mud hardens around the fish skeleton. the fish skeleton slowly dissolves, minerals fill in and harden where the skeleton was, and then lastly, millions of years later, the rock wears away and a person discovers the fossil in the shape of the fish skeleton. These are all of the events that created the fossil. Then we have how and why a fossil is created. So you can see the what happened and then the how and the why. And this is part of understanding the connections that are being made in the text. That's right, Will. So often you might hear this as decomposing in science class. Notice at the bottom of my screen there are some extra academic words like scientific text, causes, effects, and events. And these are all words that can help us understand this standard better. We are now going to read a text to practice this area of weakness for us. And as we're practicing, I want to remind all of you to model the social contract and to stay focused on how we treat other people. So I would like for you to use your chat to fill in my blank as we read together. A Powerful Rock by Patrick Pierce. So fill in my blank using your chat. Coal may look like an ordinary black rock, but instead it contains powerful energy that can be used for heat and electricity. Coal is made from plant matter that was buried far below the Earth's surface for millions of blank. Good job. And the best answer is years. Being buried so deeply and for so long put the plant matter under intense heat and pressure. The heat and pressure caused the chemicals and physical characteristics of the plant matter to change. Eventually, the plant matter turned into coal. Paragraph 2. Coal must be mined or dug up from below the ground. After it is mined, the coal travels to a machine that cleans it. This process removes dirt, rocks, and other unwanted materials. Next, heavy machines crush the coal until it becomes a fine powder. Finally, the coal is burned to make steam. Special machines called turbines use this steam to create blank. Good. Thank you to those who are using the comments in the way they should. Please remember, if you are not, your parents will be contacted about breaking the social contract, so be careful. Paragraph 3. Today, generators fueled by coal supply much of the world's energy, but the processes used to mine coal and convert it into fuel can pollute our air, land, and water. When coal is burned, harmful chemicals are released into the air. These chemicals get carried through the air by the wind and fall in the raindrops. This is called acid blank. Rain. Good job, guys. It can make plants and animals very sick. Paragraph 4. Engineers are developing new technologies to reduce the potential air pollution from coal. These promising solutions may help us get the most from this powerful rock while protecting our precious plant. You can see as I'm reading, I have circled and highlighted and underlined some things in blue writing. These are details that describe how coal forms and the uses of coal. Now that we've read this about coal, we are going to use these ideas to think about. Okay, so let's look at, from our text, the information that tells us what happens and how it happens. So I'm noticing it says how coal is formed. So you can see on my screen, plant matter from millions of years ago is changed into coal. So I'm thinking about how and why plant matter from millions of years ago is changed into coal? Well, I'm thinking the heat and pressure from being buried made the plant matter change. The chemical and physical characteristics changed, making it coal, which is exactly what the text told me. Now, I'm also thinking about how coal is used. Well, how and why it happens. Coal is used to produce energy that creates electricity. What happens that makes coal be able to be used to produce energy that creates electricity? Well, coal is mined and burned to make steam, which makes energy. And lastly, using coal harms the environment. The mining and burning of coal creates pollution. So you can see several of those what happened events and why it happened, how and why. All right. So before we move to what's next, I want you guys to look at a writing prompt with me, and I want you to think about, is this, and don't answer, but just think with me, is this Oreo, narrative, or racist? So let's look, the prompts at the bottom, you can see my blue arrow is pointing to it. It says, explain how people process and use this powerful rock. Include at least one benefit and one problem caused by people's use of coal. Include details to support your response. So I want everybody in the comments to type either the word Oreo, narrative, or racist. Very good. I see a lot of people responding, and it is a racist prompt. I know that's because it's informational. Thank you. Good job. So as we think about races, I want to remind you that the R in races stands for restate the question, A, answer the question, cite evidence, explain the evidence, and then sum it up. And we call this informational writing. We do have some steps that we think about how to be successful as a writer. And if we were in class together, we would break this prompt down with a do what T chart. We would read the text again if we needed to. We've already read it one time. We would plan with a 4-square graphic organizer, and then we would type our rough draft. Sometimes I like to call that a sloppy copy. And most importantly, we would revise and edit with arms, cups, and the writing rubric. These are the things we would use. So I want to remind you what that would look like. As my screen updates in a moment, you're going to be able to see that do what T chart. So on one side, thinking about what does this ask me to do? On the other side is your what. And these are just some reminders for you guys because we're not able to necessarily write. I know many of you are using devices that you don't have a good method of typing. So I haven't given a writing assignment yet anyway, but I want you to hear these important reminders, even though you're not actually writing about them. After you do that do what T chart, you would then think about your R and your A. Okay, and because of my original plan was for us to do our R and A today, we've had a lot of technology issues that are going to prevent us from being able to do that, so we're going to go ahead and move to what is next. All right. So as my screen updates, you're going to see the title is Gold by Carl Gebb. Please fill in my blank. People have valued gold for thousands of years because of the metal's durability. Gold ornaments, statues, and jewelry looks as bright today as when the artists of ancient Egypt and other cultures crafted them thousands of years ago. Blank is one of nature's true wonders. Very good. And you should have written the word gold. Paragraph 2. Properties. Gold is an element. It cannot be broken down into simpler substances. Gold is also very malleable, which means it is easily flattened into a thin sheet. Gold is also ductile, which means it can be pulled into a wire. For these reasons, gold is useful in making jewelry. 1 ounce of gold can become 187 square feet of gold leaf or 1 mile of gold wire. Gold also conducts heat and electricity very blank. TikTok is not a topic that should be written in the comments. If you are listening, you already knew to fill in the word well. Good. Paragraph 3. Alloys. Pure gold is very soft. Because it's so soft, gold is often mixed with other metals to make a mixture or alloy that is stronger than gold alone. Adding silver, copper, and blank to gold produces the color we associate with jewelry. Very good, Will. Great job, Alexia. Zyra, complete your independent assignment later. It's in Google Classroom. All right, paragraph 4. Today's uses. In the past, gold was mainly used for jewelry, statues, and other decorations, but today we use gold for more than just its beauty. It is an excellent conductor of electricity. This means that electricity flows through it easily. As a conductor of electricity, this means blank. If you were filling in my blank, you should have written the word that. This means that this means that electricity flows through it easily. As a conductor, gold coats electrical parts inside our cell phones and computers. It helps speed the flow of electricity. Thin films of gold also reflect blank on satellites. The sun visors of spacesuits and the windows of skyscrapers. Gold's uses are many and important. And then you can see a text feature that says computer microchips, and it gives you an image of what those look like. Good job on filling in my blank. It was the word radiation. And I want you to know that I have underlined in the text in blue details that tell us how people have used gold in the past and the present. These are things that tell us those how connections, or those reasons why something happens in scientific text. So now we're going to look at a Part A and a Part B question. Part A, which statement best explains why gold is used for making jewelry? A. Gold cannot be broken down into a simpler substance. B. Gold can be made into a mile of gold wire. C. Gold is durable and easily flattened, stretched, and shaped. D. Gold is a good conductor of heat and electricity. When you hear my code word for the week, I would like for you to type what you think the best answer is to Part A. You rock! Everybody's typing what they think is the best answer to Part A. I see a lot of people saying I think it might be C. Good. Marley, if you need to go, you can. Please complete the independent assignment on your own time. All right, let's go ahead and look at that Part B that backs it up. It says, read paragraph 2 and underline 2 sentences that best support your answer. Best answer to this one, I want you to know what it is. The very best answer is on your screen, and it is C, and I think almost every person that I saw click in chose C as the strongest answer. Good, so now Part A. So we're looking for answers that prove gold is durable and easily flattened, stretched, and shaped. So I'm going to go ahead and model that for you. I'm going to say, I'm thinking, and you're going to say she's modeling in your brain like we do in class. And I'm going to reveal those evidence pieces. Gold is always very malleable, which means it is easily flattened into a thin sheet. And then gold is also ductile, which means it can be pulled into a wire. I don't know about you guys, but I think that definitely shows durable, easily flattened, stretched, and shaped. Wes, I'm noticing you're giving some helpful tips. I think we've seen those, and you've posted those several times. Thank you for your help, and at this time, I'm going to ask you not to type those anymore for us. All right, so you guys have seen my examples of how we can look at scientific text and the reasons why things happen. I want you guys to know that today's independent practice assignment has been posted in Google Classroom. So you guys will log in today at some point, And when you do that, you guys are going to see our virtual learning section. You are going to see where I've posted an independent assignment. It has today's date on the front, 3/24 of 20. You will click on that assignment where you will see it says students need to use the attached codes in Mastery Connect to complete today's independent practice. Students can use the Mastery Connect app or Safari, and I wrote that website there for you. And then when you click that screenshot, it will show you the codes that you need to be able to do today's independent practice. Alicia, I want you to stay when we are finished, and I'm going to try to help you figure out why you're unable to get on Mastery Connect. Okay? All right, so we have our code for today. And I know some of you might have some concerns and you might need to stay on and talk to me. Please stay on if you have a question that you need to ask me so that I can help you. Miss Sumner, if you have anything you ever want to say, I want to tell you you are always at liberty to do that. And thank you for helping me because today was challenging with our internet. And Miss Hogue, same thing. If you ever need to tell me or say something, please feel free. I don't want you to ever feel like either one of you interrupt me because you are always a joy to have here with me.